What it do, cuckolds? Happy Super Bowl Sunday. But who gives a rat's ass about this game? Let's be real. Nobody cares about the Chiefs. Nobody cares about the Eagles. The Commanders didn't make it through, so I don't give a flying fuck. The only thing that I kind of want, I guess, is I don't want Mahomes to win. We'll see what happens because I'm making this before the Super Bowl. I don't want him to win. But with that being said, you know, it's like, even if he does, it's whatever. But I just want Tom Brady to continue to be the GOAT, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, today's video isn't about the Super Bowl. It's about booking in the WWE and also in AEW to a lesser extent. But the problems presented by current booking. All right, I've been hinting at this for a little bit, and we're going to combine this with something of an analysis with respect to the people that were recently fired. Now, some of the people that were recently fired are whatever. Like, a large majority of them, in my personal opinion, deserve to be fired. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean this in a booking, let them down kind of way. So, for example, let's begin with the Good Brothers. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, who's had about 19 chances in the WWE, never got over once, you know? Here's the thing about them. They get re-signed in order to have, like, AJ Styles have, like, the OC again, you know? But nothing came of this. Like, I think AJ Styles got injured, but it doesn't matter. You've signed these guys into contract, you put Michin with them for absolutely no reason, and all of a sudden now, the OC is a thing. So if AJ Styles is injured, what was your plan with respect to Gallows and Anderson, right? Was it just that they're two guys that hang out with AJ Styles? Because that's just dumb. At that point, get two new guys and give them that rub, you know? But these are two guys, presumably, that can wrestle, that have experience, and that can put on a decent match. So what do? They don't use them at all, right? Cedric Alexander, same thing. Like, I saw the tweet that he put out. He's been in the company for 8.5 years, man. 8.5 years and has done fucking nothing. And everybody knows that I actually like Cedric Alexander. I mean, like him in the context of, like, you know, when compared to, like, Sami Zayn, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything special about Cedric Alexander. Recently, one of my fans wrote that I was wrong about my take on Montez Ford, and I was like, what do you mean I was wrong? This is just facts. Like, this is just what happened, you know what I mean? It's not a matter of opinion. And his response was, well, you know, like, he's as corny as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I agree. I actually think he's less corny than Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and I think he has more to offer. He's probably better in the ring. He's better looking. He's more athletic. He's got a better physique. You know what I mean? He's got a lot over these guys. Problem is that we've just compared them to the two biggest jobbers of all time. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens shouldn't be there at all. You know what I mean? So comparing Montez Ford, let's say, to someone that, like, shouldn't be there, and then saying, well, he's good in comparison to the two worst wrestlers of all time, while a valid point, doesn't address the fact that he is not good enough, right? Cedric Alexander is not good enough. The Good Brothers aren't good enough. Now, part of that comes down to just how God made them, right? God distributes certain qualities, or whatever you believe in, distributes certain qualities, and some of these qualities are good for wrestling and others aren't, right? So, for example, if you look like Luke Gallows and you got a weird shaped head, then you're not good for wrestling, right? But if you're big like Luke Gallows, then you are good for wrestling. But in order to be a massive star, you need to have a lot of good qualities, you know? First of all, charisma. I'm not going to get into the details of this, but I just watched like a few videos of The Rock doing catchphrases, and it's like The Rock in his prime in like 99, 2000 is by far the most charismatic person I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's not even close, you know? And that right there, if you have levels of craziness, then you can get ahead on one, right? It's kind of like a distribution of stats. If you're like a 10 out of 10 on something, that might carry you over. You need to be like a 10 out of 10 with a star next to it, with an asterisk, like The Rock. Like, The Rock is a 10 out of 10. I mean, I would say, for example, Shawn Michaels in his prime is a 10 out of 10 charisma, but The Rock is more charismatic. It's just that the scale goes only up to 10, cucks. But the point is, you need these attributes. And this is the issue, right? They hire wrestlers that don't have these attributes, you know, and they hope, to some extent, they hope that these wrestlers blossom into these attributes, right? Like, nobody hired, I would imagine, nobody hired Elijah Burke because they thought he was charismatic. They probably hired him because he's a good-looking guy with a good physique and, like, a boxing, you know, background, if you will, right? Nobody could have thought that this guy would be as charismatic as he was in TNA. You know, that's something that maybe he grew into. You know, the same can be said about a lot of wrestlers. Like, I don't think, like, you know, John Cena was as charismatic when he started. He grew into it. But the problem is, you should have an opportunity, and more importantly, you should have the ability to be able to vet when someone will or someone will not. be able to grow into it, right? Like, I'm not saying that my radar on this is perfect, but I think it's pretty solid, you know? So when I say, for example, Obafemi's never going to grow into it, at best he's going to be a guy managed by Paul Heyman into obscurity, right? It's like, you know, like you have him, then you have like Ryback. Like, Ryback didn't make it, you know? And Ryback has like a physique that's 100 times better. He'd probably murder Obafemi, right? And he's charismatic in his own way, and he didn't make it. So it's like, what faith do we have in these other guys? So what's the solution? Well, the solution primarily is don't hire these people, right? Lower your expectations only when there's no alternatives. But there are alternatives. You have people like Hammerstone. Hell, you even have people like Jacob Fatu, who people have been clamoring on for like 20 years, and this guy just got signed. You know what I mean? Sign the correct people first. Don't wait for them to get over in the indies, and then get them and then push them like they were over in WWE the whole time, right? Here's the thing. People like, you know, Jacob Fatu, even Tama Tonga, right? These people who, quote-unquote, have proved themselves in the indies get this unnecessary boost when they come to the WWE, right? It's very rare for this to happen nowadays. In the past, this was just how wrestling operated, you know what I mean? Like, Batista comes in, they give him like a trial run with Devon. They immediately realize that Batista is above Devon in every capacity, and Devon's one of my personal favorites. And then what do? They have Devon get his ass beat by Batista, and then Batista joins a faction where basically his future is relatively secured. Then what does Batista do? Does Batista go and have a 2-year-long Intercontinental title run? No. Batista is beyond that. Batista goes directly for the world title because he's Batista, right? Batista, if there was a new Batista tomorrow, bet your ass, this guy is not going to go to NXT. This guy is going directly to the E. And this happens all the time with like returning wrestlers. For example, Jinder Mahal. He just returned directly to WWE, right? Let's see. Obviously, John Cena, everybody that's a legend, they just go back to WWE. Edge is not going to go try NXT first, right? He's Edge. The Drew McIntyres of the world. These are the people that need to go back to NXT because we have to reestablish that they're not jobbers, right? They don't have much to offer compared to the other people that I've mentioned, so they got to go start in NXT, right? Now, some of the people are good enough to start in WWE. Let's say Montez Ford, right? Montez Ford, I mean, for what he is, again, he's nothing special, but in a sea of mediocrity, he's like mediocre plus one, right? Montez Ford has no reason to start number one in a tag team or start in NXT. This guy has a small, not significant, but a small potential to be a star. So put him on Raw or SmackDown and see how he does. You know, the NXT formula doesn't work. Nobody in NXT is believable, right? Even like Gunther, he has to go be like NXT UK champion. Like the way they talk about his resume, it's like 90% or like 80% of the time he's been in WWE, he's had a championship, right? Because this guy is not interesting without one, right? He has to be interesting only when he's holding a title. Otherwise, there's no difference between him and anybody else. Like, what's the difference between Gunther and Chad Gable, you know, if Gunther doesn't have a title? Nothing. There's no difference. He adds nothing to wrestling, right? So it's like, why are you hiring these people? Then the question becomes, once you hire them, and it's very evident that it's not going to work out, at least to me, right? So for example, Cedric Alexander, I could have told you 7 years ago, this guy's never going to make it, right? I could have told you that back then. You know, Mustafa Ali, they gave him multiple opportunities. I'm like, this guy's never going to make it. Why is he here? You know, there are some people that get over, like Kofi Kingston when he debuted, he got over. Sheamus, he kind of got over, right? And you're like, all right, these guys might have something. But if you don't have anything, you got to get released. It's as simple as that. Keeping someone like Cedric Alexander for 10 years and not using him is borderline abusive in the sense that this guy could have done something good in AEW. He could have like built the brand there or something, right? Now he's going to go and join the Hurt Syndicate, which is a fucking disaster if you ask me, because it's just the same thing WWE did one more time. Oh, they're going to get Cedric Alexander. Now they're complete. Are they? Lashley needs to become champion immediately for this to have any kind of like validity, because Lashley is similar to Gunther in the sense that he has the personality of a brick. Without a championship, Lashley's just there. He's just another Baron Corbin that nobody wants around. You understand me? None of these guys have anything special about them. You know, people talk that, oh, Shelton Benjamin is underrated. Yeah, he's underrated because nobody gave a fuck about the fact that he's like one of the best athletes in history. You have to have a personality. Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas are two of the best athletes WWE has ever had, and they'd probably beat up like 90% of the roster. But it doesn't matter because they're boring, right? Rico and Enzo Amore are going to get a better push. Nobody in their right mind thinks that like Enzo Amore would have any chance in a fight against Shelton Benjamin or Charlie Haas. Zero chance. They would murder him. However, he's entertaining and they're not. So when it's time to push somebody, it's Enzo Amore, right? It's as simple as that. Now, Enzo Amore went to NXT. This makes sense because he has to hone in his promo skills. That's something that you can actually work and improve, right? It's as simple as that. He's not ready to go in front of like 50,000 people. You know, when he is, nobody cares about the fact that he can't do a Hurricane Rana. Who gives a shit? He's not there for that. He's there to talk, right? And he can talk now, so he's in the main event of, you know, well, eventually he goes to the Cruiserweight division, but you know what I'm saying, right? Now, the rehiring of jobbers is something that keeps happening in WWE. You know, we have, for example, Mike Bennett. Remember him? He basically came there, he had like a drug problem, which is nothing to laugh at. You know, that's serious shit. I understand that. Then, so he went to like rehab on WWE's dime. His wife, who was really the person being signed, Maria, she got pregnant. So she went on maternity leave. So this guy was in the company for like 3 years, wrestled like 3 matches, and got paid God knows how much money, right? Good for him. I'm not saying anything. But what about the WWE? You're wasting money on this guy that you could have spent on, I don't know, the next like Japanese sensation. I don't care. The point is, use your money correctly. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself rammed up the ass, just like WWE is now. You know, they let go of 8 people. You have someone like Sonya Deville, who she's actually one that I think they could have done more with her. You know, but you put her in the pure jobber collective, one of the worst groups of all time, and you're like, I can't believe she didn't make it. You put Mustafa Ali, who's boring as shit. Now he's finding his ground a little bit in the indies, right? He wasn't ready. They didn't train him to do promos. They're like, you're going to go do flippy shit. You're here for the Cruiserweight Classic, kid. Put on the Pakistani flag or whatever the flag they gave him and go perform. That's your job, cuck. You know? Like his job he wasn't supposed to be there this long. Same thing with Gargano and Ciampa. But then the question becomes, look at Gargano and Ciampa. They've been there for like since the Cruiserweight Classic. It's like 8 years, right? Same thing as Cedric Alexander. And they're still there. They don't draw a damn dime, you know? The only one from the Cruiserweight Classic that had any kind of entertainment qualities was Tozawa, who I believe will out-wrestle all these guys, number one, and 2, who I think is going to outstay all of them. Like Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they're going to be like IYD and debut in AEW. You know what I mean? Like sooner rather than later, in my opinion. And this is like their last chance, I feel like, you know? You got all these people that you signed that don't draw a dime, right? But part of the reason is the bad booking, right? Cedric Alexander has all the tools, literally. He has every single tool to be the next Sami Zayn. But they don't want to make him the next Sami Zayn. Apollo Crews has all those tools and more to become the next Zayn or Kevin Owens. Or even you can take Apollo Crews and he can be like a believable Drew McIntyre type guy. I know Drew McIntyre is everyone's like crush now, but let's be real. You know, Apollo Crews isn't as tall, but he is believable in terms of his strength. He can lift like anybody up. He can do flippy shit. He can do it all. That's why he's still there. But he's been there for like 10 years doing nothing. Meanwhile, how many chances is Andrade gonna get? This guy doesn't even try. He doesn't even learn English. He just comes out there with a suit, grabs his lapels, puts them forward, acts arrogant, and loses every match. And then this guy gets continuous chances. Garza, fucking Berto, Santos Escobar being there should be studied in textbooks. This guy has not drawn a dime for this company. You have like Elektra Lopez on the team. This girl's had like 3 matches. B-Fab is still there. Are you fucked? Bailey is still there. Like, they just decided Bailey's good, we're gonna push her. Right? B-Fab is like the same thing. It's not a real sport, cucks. Everything Bailey can do, you can teach a girl to do in 1 week. It's not like hard. Like, people act like it's like this complicated art. It might be this complicated art if you have like Shawn Michaels and like Bret Hart or Kurt Angle and Benoit, and you have to make every move look amazing. But to do what Bailey does, which is botch 50% of her moves, to do what Liv Morgan does, you can get any girl and teach them to do that in literally 10 days. You know? The Hater was responsible back in college for training what eventually became the women's college boxing champion of that year in her weight class, right? This girl had not one athletic bone in her body. But because the other girls she competed with were even more of jobbers, right? The Hater and his people were able to coach her and train her to become the champion, right? Now, the Hater and the men on the team couldn't become champion, right? Because the competition is like, you have to fight some dude from the army or from the Navy that's been boxing since like 3. Right? But for women, it's like 5 women. See what I'm saying? The standard is so much lower in women's wrestling that you don't need Bailey to win like 19 Royal Rumbles. You know, these are just the facts, motherfuckers. These are just the facts. The reality is that the booking decisions have led to an influx of not only no stars, that's clear as day, but there's all these people that just suffer year after year and do nothing. Like, for example, Montez Ford, right? Like, what the fuck does it take for someone in this company to say, wait a second, Montez Ford is part of a shit tag team, but the shit guy, Angelo Dawkins, is still here. Why is he still here? Fire Dawkins, push Montez Ford one time. I ask that you do it one time, motherfuckers. And I'm not saying push him instead of pushing Cody Rhodes. I understand Cody Rhodes is going to get the push. Because, quite frankly, even though I don't like Cody Rhodes, he is better than Montez. But the point is, like, for maybe one of the 5 or 6 Finn Balor pushes, give it to Montez Ford. Give one of those pushes. They don't want to do this. Their booking department is predicated upon not what you do in WWE matters, but what you do elsewhere matters more. Oh, but Finn Balor fought Ryusuke Taguchi in like a jobber match. Did he? Montez Ford just jumped over 3 people in NXT, which is a WWE product. That should be rewarded more. What the fuck's the point of the Performance Center? Like, they get the Performance Center to make jobbers. Oh, here's William Regal's son. What the fuck's that guy gonna do? That guy has Noam Dar written all over it. He's never gonna be a massive star. The massive stars you're gonna get when you see someone in the indies that becomes someone that might one day be a WWE massive star. Like LA Knight. Like even Jacob Fatu. Right? You know? The WWE products get treated like shit. Like, they get put in the company. They're told, oh, work here, you're gonna improve. Some of them improve, and then they go and become Andrade, or then they go and become Apollo Crews. Or Ty Dillinger. Right? They just get infinite chances, and nobody thinks, wait a second, man. Maybe let's push some of the new ones faster. Right? Just like Batista was pushed. Do you think when Vince McMahon and JR saw Brock Lesnar that any of them thought, oh, why don't we have this guy go in there? He'll feud with Al Snow for a few months. Then he'll feud with Val Venus. And then after that, he's going to lose to the European champion, you know, like William Regal. And then he's going to have a redemption story, win the European title. Then maybe in 3 years, he'll win the Intercontinental title. And in 7 years, he'll win the Rumble and become a main eventer. No, here's what they thought. This guy is fucking insane, right? He's going to come in there. He's going to go into a jobber match. He's going to obliterate Maven, Spike Dudley, and Al Snow in seconds. Then he's going to destroy the Hardys completely. Then he's going to murder, like, Rikishi, RVD. He's going to win the King of the Ring. Then he's going to come, and he's going to become the champion. Then after that, we're going to have him drop the title. He's going to win the Rumble and do it again because he's Brock Lesnar. That's what they thought. They didn't think, wow, to really make this guy get over, he needs to have like a Gunther-like 500-day title run as the Intercontinental Champion. Or like Lashley was the U.S. Champion before. No, they're like, this thing speaks for itself. You don't need, it's called res ipsa loquitur, motherfuckers, look it up. Like, it speaks for itself. You look at Brock Lesnar and you're like, shit, this guy is believable. And this guy would murder Triple H. He would murder The Rock. He would murder Hogan. He would murder Booker T. He would murder all their families. Right? So as a result, we don't need this guy to go be a mid-carder first. He gets pushed to the main event. When was the last time anybody was pushed to the main event? Everybody has to start slow. The Shield has to, like, Dean Ambrose becomes the U.S. champion, like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns become the tag champions. No, what should happen is this. The group is built around Roman Reigns. He becomes the champion within 3 weeks. Or 3 months at least. That's how you do it. When Kane debuted, he became a champion immediately. He was a threat the first day he debuted. When Great Khali debuted, he went after The Undertaker because they saw something exceptional in him. Gunther debuts, and he feuds with fucking Jey Uso and Chad Gable. Oh, Gunther beat Sami Zayn. And he's like, you'll never beat me, Sami Zayn. So what? Like, do you think Sami Zayn would have any chance against Brock Lesnar? I don't even mean in real life. I mean in kayfabe. Like, if Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Batista started on the same week, Vince McMahon and anybody who's not a retard would look and say, oh, this is called Batista. These two guys are going to be in a tag team where they're going to go wrestle DIY until one of them shows us something extra. But Batista is going to go there, and his debut match is going to be, he's going to 2-on-1 DIY, spine buster, spear, Batista bomb, 1, 2, 3, pin with his leg. Right? Pin with his foot on top of him. We need guys that can do that. There's nobody that has come through in the last like 10 years where it's like, this person is undeniable. This person, and that's WWE's fault. Now they take Jacob Fatu and they want me to believe he's undeniable. No, motherfucker. I saw Batista. I saw Brock Lesnar. Hell, I saw The Undertaker. I saw Kane. I saw Great Khali. These guys are undeniable. Jacob Fatu's not undeniable. He's a regular dude. And even in the category of regular dudes, like I've seen Kurt Angle. I've seen John Cena. I've seen Booker T. Hell, I've seen King Booker, right? I've seen like, holy shit, look at this guy. You know? Like, do you really believe that if someone saw Jacob Fatu and Booker T, that anyone reasonable would think like, yeah, Booker T needs to go and be in a tag team with Goldust, but Jacob Fatu is going to get a solo push? No. Everyone would think the opposite. They would say Jacob Fatu is going to be a lackey, and this Booker T guy is going straight to the top if they caught him now. The problem was, obviously, he was from WCW, and he was like in his 30s. You know, if you got Booker T in his 20s, like, you know, like WCW had him, you should have pushed that motherfucker. Problem was, back then, you also had like much better stars. It becomes more justifiable to say like, all right, we're not going to push Booker T because we have DDP, because we have Goldberg, because we have like Sid Vicious, right? Then it's not reasonable to have someone like Montez Ford and say, well, I'm not going to push him because Finn Balor and Sami Zayn need a turn. And again, if you saw Booker T and Montez Ford, you'd be like, move over, Montez Ford. We have a real star here. Go be in a tag team with somebody, right? Which is what they did. The problem is they failed to do the other side of the equation. They failed to check their math, cucks. And the booking is worse than it's always been. Cuckwads.